When I first moved into Ridgeway Glen, I wanted two things: quiet mornings and fast internet. I did not sign up for a neighborhood where the board measured your lawn like evidence and treated common sense like a bylaw violation. But that's what I walked into, and a dumb little Wi-Fi name started a fight I didn't know I needed. My name is Cal Mercer. I work from home. The world comes through a router on my kitchen counter, and for 2 months that router was the only thing in my house I could control. I set the network name to something small, silly Cal's Cave, and then a neighbor left an envelope with Ridgeway Glen letterhead. Please change your Wi-Fi network name to conform to community standards. The tone was polite, the implication not. I could have changed it. I almost did. Then I read the binder the board hands new owners. 90-odd pages of rules about porch paint, mailbox size, even the number of garden gnomes visible from the street. Some rules made sense. Others felt like someone trying to freeze time. That binder was the spine of the neighborhood, and the people who held it believed they were holding the place together. But holding things together can tilt toward holding people down. I set up a guest network named exactly after the binder's phrasing: Ridgeway_Glen_digital_presence_policy. A neighbor texted a screenshot. Another neighbor shared it at brunch. Laughter spilled into our group chat. Then Agatha Lyle, the HOA chair with a precise bun and an affection for formal notices, sent another letter. Remove networks that disparage community guidelines. Disparage? It was a name, and the absurdity of policing a Wi-Fi SSID felt like a small, unbearable pressure. Marty Cole, who runs a local networking shop and enjoys overkill, came by and said, "You need a choir, not a solo." He rigged a system that broadcast dozens of SIDs at once, each one a literal rule from the binder. No _hammocks_ without _form _42. Holiday flight. No _. Those names were ridiculous and specific and suddenly impossible to ignore. People noticed. Phones flashed. Screenshots became conversation. Some neighbors laughed, some called it petty, and a few admitted quietly they'd been slapped with fines for smaller things. Agatha escalated a special meeting, formal warnings, language about preserving community standards. She believed she was protecting property values and harmony. She was also protecting a version of the neighborhood that left little room for differences. The special meeting was in the community room under fluorescent lights and the smell of old coffee. Agatha stood at the front with her clipboard and a practiced calm. Earlier that week, she'd actually come to my door. Her shoes made a quiet, exacting sound on my porch, and she said, "Cal, we just want things to look uniform." I remember the way she said "we," as if she spoke for a place that had never asked her to. I told her I liked my router name. She smiled like someone indulgent toward a child, and I remember thinking how tidy she made enforcement sound. I spoke up. I read the binder aloud the way you read a dead language, lines naked of ceremony, so everyone could see their plainness. No more than 2 front yard ornaments visible from the street. A laugh bubbled out from someone, and that loosened people. I remember a woman near the back whispering, "They cited my mum's last fall." Agatha's face tightened. Her motive wasn't malice. She truly believed uniformity preserved value. Power simply sharpened that belief into intolerance. I asked her, quietly, why the binder had become a barometer for who belongs, and she answered, "Standards protect everyone." When I pressed "protect who, exactly?" the room shifted. You could tell no one had asked that question in a long time. The conversation shifted, and stories poured out: a widow fined for a wind-blown wreath, a contractor slapped with a charge for leaving supplies overnight, a family told their vegetable garden was incompatible with neighborhood aesthetics. People who'd been quiet for years started asking, "Since when? And who decided this?" Rosa Delgado, who'd lived here 20 years, stood up and said, "We are more than a catalog of approved paint colors." Her voice landed, steady and unexpected, and you could see people deciding how to feel about the binder in real time. Agatha called the police. She described harassment. 2 officers arrived and looked at screenshots of network names on phones. One of them, broad, patient, said, "Ma'am, people naming their networks isn't a crime." That sentence loosened the room in a way nothing the binder ever could. It removed the fear that keeps polite people silent. The meeting did not end in a grand verdict. It ended with neighbors signing a petition on their phones and deciding to talk some more, and the talking began to matter. The recall and rewrite were messy and very human. There were angry emails and quiet talks over fences, a few tears, and a lot of coffee. We consulted a volunteer lawyer who helped us tighten the language so future boards couldn't weaponize vague phrases. People who didn't want change argued that it felt like instability, and people who were tired of being policed argued that silence had been the board's ally for too long. There were tense conversations at the mailbox and honest ones at kitchen tables. Reform wasn't dramatic. It was neighbor work signatures, minutes, meetings where we learned to listen. What surprised me most was how ordinary and human the whole thing was. There were moments of cruelty, sharp letters, a glare at the grocery store, but also small kindnesses. June from 2 doors down brought me cookies during the petition and said, "I don't want fights, I just want fairness." That line stuck. It reminded us what change should aim for, limits and dignity, not humiliation. Agatha didn't vanish. She resisted the changes and argued for precedent and care. Her resistance forced us to be precise, which was fair. A fight for clarity is better than a fight for power. In compromise, we made the binder shorter, focused on safety and actual nuisance, added an appeals process, and created community review for complaints. The board kept responsibility, but the teeth had to be justified and transparent. For me, the point was never to humiliate anyone. The Wi-Fi stunt was petty and a little gleeful, I admit. It was also a mirror. Small rules, when left unchecked, become instruments of exclusion. They start as attempts to keep a place tidy and end as ways to tell some people they don't fit. The noisy SIDS were a harmless way to get attention without breaking anything important, and attention is sometimes the only tool a quiet person has. Months later, Ridgeway Glen looks the same: the houses, the hedges, the neighbor kids on bikes, but the meetings changed. People come with questions, not proclamations. Rosa sits on the advisory committee. The binder sits on my shelf, less a litany of demands and more a reference. And my router name is predictably boring again because habits are soft cushions. Change was not total, but something shifted. Quiet people felt safer to show up. The binder stopped pretending to be the community's conscience and became, more honestly, a set of guidelines with teeth only where safety or serious nuisance exist. That felt like a win. So what do you think? Was I right to turn a rulebook into a joke to make a point, or was I just being childish? Have you lived under a binder that felt more like a personal opinion than a rule? Drop a comment and tell me where you draw the line between order and control. If this resonated, pass it to a neighbor, start the conversation.